Hello Ritik, how are you? So, welcome everyone. Welcome to Writed. So, first of all, please tell me whether my voice is clear, and I hope the screen is also clearly visible. आवाज़ आ रही है सबको? Is my voice clear? Everything's fine? Okay, wonderful. Okay, so in today's session, what we're going to discuss is, just a second, I think connection issue. Just give me a sec. PD Club is asking what, I'm not able to understand what exactly is the question. Remaining lectures of national income मतलब आप पूछ क्या रहे हो? सवाल बताइए अपना. So again, in today's session, I'm going to tell you, we will start inflation. हम लोग आज के सेशन में क्या करेंगे? हम लोग इन्फ्लेशन चैप्टर पढ़ेंगे. इन्फ्लेशन चैप्टर हम लोग शुरू क्यों कर रहे हैं? देखिए, फाइनेंस के सिलेबस में आप सबको पता है कि इट स्टार्ट्स विद स्ट्रक्चर एंड डेवलपमेंट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम. उसके बाद आप ये सब चीज़ भी देखते हैं उसमें कि बहुत सारा डायरेक्टली फाइनेंशियल सिलेबस पहुंच जाता है. बट इन ऑर्डर टू अंडरस्टैंड ऑल दैट सिलेबस, इट इज़ एसेंशियल कि आप बेसिक पहले कर लो. ठीक है? सो यू डू बेसिक्स फर्स्ट. So in order to understand that particular aspect is, so you want to know my educational background? क्यों? मतलब credibility judge कर रहे हो? B.Tech, mechanical, NIT Allahabad, given RBI Grade B interview, given RBI interview, assistant manager, given civil services, UPSC interview. So that's about the experience and education. फिर I've worked as an assistant manager Maruti Suzuki, and I've been, in the edtech sector for the past 4+ years. So that's my resume. अगर यही जानना है आपको तो ठीक है. चलिए, nevertheless, चलो एक ही बार बता दिया मैंने, मैं बार बार नहीं बताऊंगा. ठीक है? Thank you so much. It is basically, see, one thing is, a lot of you basically says कि I teach better or something like that, which obviously I try to do something, but it is the teacher, it is the students that basically make sure कि teacher और अच्छे से पढ़ाए, है ना? आप लोग इतने interactive होते हो, that also brings confidence, that also brings motivation within the teacher to teach very much comprehensively and to teach very much interactively. तो आप जितना interact करेंगे, आप जितना अपने सवाल पूछेंगे, उतने ही आपकी knowledge भी improve होगी और हमारी articulation भी improve होगी, है ना? So without further ado, let's start today's session. So today's agenda will be, I'll tell you today's agenda. So we will talk about inflation, ki what exactly the inflation is, okay, its meaning. We will talk about the significance of inflation, or what you call the importance of inflation. Okay, importance of inflation, and then we will talk about why it is important for us to study inflation in the first place. Why is it important? मतलब क्यों ही पढ़ रहे हो आप इन्फ्लेशन? वन थिंग इज सर्टेन कि आपको एग्जाम में नंबर लाने हैं, तो ये फैक्टर रहता ही रहता है ना. बट दूसरी चीज़ ये रहती है कि कि ओवरऑल इन जनरल सेंस में आप इकोनॉमी क्यों ही पढ़ रहे हो, है ना। तो ये चीज़ भी हम लोग डिस्कवर करेंगे। फिर इन्फ्लेशन से रिलेटेड वी विल डिस्कस कि व्हाट आर वेरियस कॉजेज बिहाइंड इन्फ्लेशन। कॉजेज के साथ साथ इन्फ्लेशन का इम्पैक्ट आपको क्या देखने को मिलता है। लेटर ऑन वी विल ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन। Types of inflation में we will talk about multiple types of inflation. You must have heard about galloping inflation. You must have heard about hyperinflation. You must have heard about inflation terms like persistent inflation, concepts like stagflation, concepts like deflation, disinflation. ये जितने भी अलग अलग कॉन्सेप्ट्स हैं, ये सारी चीज़ें हम लोग आज के सेशन में डिस्कस करेंगे, ठीक है। इन द नेक्स्ट सेशन जो होगा हमारा, उसमें हम लोग प्योर इंडियन इकोनॉमी के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में वी विल स्टडी इन्फ्लेशन। सो दिस इज टुडेज सेशन। इन द नेक्स्ट सेशन वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग इंडियन इकोनॉमी के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में द होल कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन, इन विच वी विल डिस्कस अबाउट CPI, WPI, ठीक है। वी विल डिस्कस अबाउट द बेस ईयर, वी विल डिस्कस अबाउट द इकोनॉमिक सर्वे फाइंडिंग्स ऑल्सो, दिस ईयर इकोनॉमिक सर्वे फाइंडिंग्स ऑल्सो इन द नेक्स्ट सेशन। अब देखिए, मेरा इकोनॉमिक सर्वे की फाइंडिंग्स को अपने चैप्टर में इंक्लूड करने का पॉइंट केवल इतना सा है, सो दैट अब देखिए द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट और द मोस्ट मेजर प्रॉब्लम दैट आई हैव सीन स्टूडेंट्स फेस प्रीवियसली वॉज कि इकोनॉमिक सर्वे का चैप्टर अलग से मिल जाता था, तो अब उस चैप्टर को आप अपने जो फाइनेंस स्टैटिक के चैप्टर्स हैं उसमें कैसे रिलेट करेंगे। तो ये एक सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम होती थी। सो दैट प्रॉब्लम आई विल बी सॉल्विंग फॉर यू इन दीज सेशंस। ओके, सो इज दिस क्लियर टू ईच एंड एवरी वन ऑफ यू? शैल वी मूव ऑन? शैल वी स्टार्ट द लेक्चर? चलिए, सो फर्स्ट थिंग्स फर्स्ट, so we're going to discuss is what is inflation. Again, these notes will be available in the course, ठीक है। And those of you who haven't joined the Telegram channel, they can join the Telegram channel by searching Right Ed Reg on the Telegram global search. So as I've already told you, in context of inflation, the meaning of inflation is basically, in broad sense, is the sustainable, or you can say sustained increase in general price levels. Now what do you mean by that? देखिए, अब एक सिंपल सा पार्लेंस, एक एग्जाम्पल अगर आपको दिया जाए, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, व्हाट इज द थिंग दैट यू रियली वांट टू, लेट्स से, बाय, और यू हैव सम काइंड ऑफ अ डिज़ायर टू बाय दैट पर्टिकुलर गुड। कोई ना कोई तो हर एक इंसान के अंदर ऐसा गुड होता है, या फिर ऐसी कोई सर्विसेज होती है जिसको वो लगता है कि मैं इस चीज़ को खरीदूंगा। तो ऐसी कोई आप लोगों के दिमाग में कुछ है? जैसे बहुत सारे लोगों के दिमाग में होता है कि उसे डिफेंडर खरीदनी है। अब डिफेंडर खरीदने के लिए चाहिए 1.5 करोड़ रुपए। किसी किसी का होता है कि उसको घर खरीदना है। तो आप लोगों को क्या खरीदना है बताइए? What do you guys really want to purchase in the near future, or let's say maybe later? So if you see that, for example, if somebody who purchases a bike, if somebody who has a dream of purchasing a bike, and let's talk about a person in the rural India, he dreams of a purchase of a bike, Splendor, because this is the most sturdy, most strong bike with respect to, or basically you can also utilize it in a rough terrain, so it won't create any issue. तो उस पर्टिकुलर केस में हर एक का एक वो होता है कि वो स्प्लेंडर खरीदनी है। नाउ स्प्लेंडर कॉस्ट, if you would have taken the Splendor cost, let's say in 2016, so how many of you remember what was the Splendor's cost in 2016? Mustang 1967. Yes, good choice. So in 2016, what do you think was the price of Splendor at that particular point of time? So you must have remembered at that time the price of Splendor was somewhere around 60k, or let's say 50 to 60k. But 10 years afterwards, the price right now must be somewhere around 70 to let's say 90k, or maybe much more than that. तो जो बाइक आपको 50 से 60 हज़ार में मिल जाती थी, अभी वो 70 से 90 हज़ार के बीच में क्यों मिल रही है? आपने कभी सोचा है? मतलब ये इवन इफ यू लेट्स से थिंक अबाउट, और इवन इफ यू ट्राई टू रिलेट इट विद इन्फ्लेशन, कि सर इन्फ्लेशन है, अब इन्फ्लेशन क्या है, क्यों हो रहा है, ये ऐसा का ऐसा क्यों नहीं रह सकता है? आप मुझे बताइए. वाई बेसिकली द प्राइस कैन नॉट बी द सेम? Why inflation exists in the first place? Why such kind of thing happens in the first place? For example, if you see over here, this is what you call price inflation, or matlab inflation in general. Inflation you see in terms of prices. Now all of you tell me, let's say back in 2012, if you go and purchase Lay's, what's the favorite flavor of yours? Somebody likes Indian tikha mixture, or let's say somebody, onion and, flavor, or let's say somebody also likes tomato flavor. But you remember that 20 rupees Lay's, the 20 rupees Lay's which used to be somewhat like this much big. Now if you purchase that same 20 rupees Lay's is basically coming in this small packet. So while they have not changed the amount, but they have reduced the size. So inflation is also seen in that particular context. तो इन्फ्लेशन आप दोनों तरीके से देखते हो. या तो आप इन्फ्लेशन देखते हो कि प्राइस बढ़ गया, सेम प्रोडक्ट है लेकिन प्राइस बढ़ गया. दूसरा आप देखते हो कि सेम प्राइस है, जो अमाउंट आपको मिलना चाहिए था वो कम हो गया. सो द अमाउंट बेसिकली दैट यू यूज्ड टू गेट, दैट हैज बीन रिड्यूस्ड. ओके, सो दिस इज ऑल्सो व्हाट यू कॉल श्रिंकफ्लेशन. दिस इज द थिंग दैट यू सी इन नॉर्मल लाइफ और नॉट. आप लोग ये देखते हैं कि नहीं देखते हैं ये नॉर्मल लाइफ में, कि जो पैकेट, बड़ा पैकेट 20 रुपए में आ जाया करता था, अब वही सेम पैकेट आपको 30 या 50 रुपए में मिलता है. या 20 रुपए में आपको छोटा पैकेट मिलता है. तो इन्फ्लेशन से दो चीजें आपको समझ में आती हैं. इन्फ्लेशन ईदर कैन मीन इंक्रीज इन प्राइसेस, और इन्फ्लेशन कैन मीन decrease in purchasing power of your currency. Understood? तो इन्फ्लेशन से there can be two basically consequences. Either if you see, if you are considering the same product and you are trying to understand that how much inflation is there, so you keep the product constant and you see the price increase. And here you kept the price constant, and then you saw with similar price you are now able to purchase only few amount of Lays, not the big amount. ठीक है? So decrease in purchasing power of currency is a consequence of inflation. Is this clear to each and every one of you? ये चीज clear है? Sir, when will you start the class of PIB and RBI? PIB class will happen today. ठीक है? And RBI class I'm not getting. What RBI class? RBI, all these classes are for RBI only. चलिए, if you've understood this, now let's move on to causes of inflation. What do you think are the various causes of inflation? Anyone? So those of you who have already studied causes of inflation, or let's say inflation topic, they can tell that why do you think inflation exists in the first place? होता क्यों है inflation? Tell me. See, inflation happens because of the simple law of demand and supply, or what you call basically when there is any kind of unstable equilibrium existing between demand and supply, तो उसके चक्कर में inflation होता है. Now if you must have studied this in multiple areas. For example, think about a case scenario. In a particular village, let's call it a very simple, in a particular village, there is one seller, only one seller. This one seller is basically selling what you call onions. And there are two houses, house A, house B. Okay. So this seller is ready to pay onions at, let's say, 10 rupees. And these houses are also ready to pay at 10 rupees. Okay? So he is getting profit. They are also getting the onion at a very sufficient supply. तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. Now think about a case scenario where, let's say, the seller is there having the same supply of onions, but right now the buyers have increased. B, A, C, D. Okay? So buyers have increased. So now all of them are desperate. They need what? They need onions. And they all have money. Now what do you think the seller will do? Seller is saying, the onion is available at 10 rupees. So this buyer is saying, give me. But the onion supply is limited. Onion is not available for each and every one of them. So this A person says, okay, I will give you 20 rupees, give me the onion. Now this person will come, he will say, I will give you 25 rupees, give me the onion. Now this person will say, I will give you 23 rupees, give me the onion. So what will this onion seller will do? What do you guys think? ये onion seller क्या करेगा? This onion seller will only give from where he get the maximum profit. So the price which was available at 10 rupees previously now has increased to 25 rupees. So this seller will say, if you want to purchase onion, give me 25 rupees. Otherwise, you can go somewhere else, because there is nobody else. Because there are no other seller in the place. So what does this phenomena tell you? This phenomena is basically telling you too many people chasing few available onions. Okay? So this is what causes inflation. So what do you understand from this overall? There can be two interpretations to it. What are the various interpretations of this? I will give you two interpretations of this. Just give me a sec. Let me put it to charge. Chalo, we'll do something about it. So there are, as I was telling you guys, there are two aspects to it. One interpretation says that because there is increased demand for onion, because there is high demand for onion, there is a increase in price, or basically you can say high demand caused inflation. So this is first thing that we have expected. Next is because there is limited supply. Because there is limited supply, so that also leads to inflation. So are you guys able to understand that in this whole case scenario, because there was increase in demand, that leads to inflation, and because there is decrease, or let's say supply is limited, that also leads to inflation. Now think about a case scenario. This whole metric, or this whole case scenario, we can also reach if we change the sellers as well. For example, if let's say instead of this particular juncture, let's call, or let's make another village in which, let's say, the buyers are only these two, A and B. But let's say over here he had 100 kg of onions. The demand is 50 kg, the demand is 50 kg. It is fulfilled by 10 rupees. But now the same supply has been declined to only 50 kg. Now here the demand is 50 kg, here also the demand is 50 kg, but the supply got limited. So even here the A person will say, I will give you 15 rupees. This B person will say, I will give you 18 rupees. So now this seller will sell this at 18 rupees. So what does this tell you? That even decline in supply also leads to inflation. Is this clear? Is this clear to each and every one of you? Please tell. सबको समझ में आता जा रहा है कि नहीं आता जा रहा है? फाइनेंस क्लास इज ऑलरेडी आज चल तो रही है, फाइनेंस क्लास ही ये चल रही है. सो दिस इज फाइनेंस क्लास ओनली, इट्स नॉट ESI, द टॉपिक इज ऑफ फाइनेंस. चलिए, नाउ लेट्स टॉक अबाउट अदर कॉजेस. ठीक है, इफ यू सी when you talk about how do you control inflation, you must have studied in various case scenarios that how do you control inflation, how do you control inflation. So what will you tell me? How do you control inflation? What are the various things that you guys can tell me, that what are the various ways via which you can control inflation? So normally you would say कि sir, we can do it via monetary policy, or we can do it via fiscal policy. कर सकते हैं कि नहीं कर सकते हैं? Now these two terms are obviously new to someone who hasn't studied, or let's say who haven't studied these terms, and they, even if let's say somebody who's a veteran and he knows that monetary policy and fiscal policy basically are used to control inflation, but I will tell you another perspective to it. मैं आपको एक दूसरा perspective बताता हूँ, and these two are also responsible for inflation as well. मतलब इन दोनों की वजह से inflation भी हो जाता है. If I tell you that these two policies, instead of let's say controlling inflation, they are also the causes behind inflation, तो what will you tell to me? आप लोग मुझे क्या बोलेंगे? कुछ उल्टा सीधा मत बोलना, मैं लॉजिक दे रहा हूँ, ऐसे फर्जी नहीं बोल रहा हूँ. But can you understand this, that how monetary policy and fiscal policy can cause inflation? उनकी वजह से inflation कैसे हो सकता है, यही हम देखते हैं. तो since we were discussing about the causes of inflation, we discussed that high demand is the reason behind inflation, limited supply is also the reason behind inflation. But apart from this, you also have these two policies responsible for inflation. How? See, one reason is in monetary policy, what happens is, monetary policy is the policy that basically controls. See, if you see monetary policy, it basically controls money supply in the economy. You only just learn about this money supply in economy. What RBI does? Sometimes RBI print more money and they give that money to various banks. So that money is available in the overall economy. So when think about if the money supply is increased in economy, when people get more money in their hands. So what does this do? When people get more money in their hands, what does it lead to? Can anyone tell? जब लोगों के पास पैसा ज़्यादा आ जाता है तो उससे क्या फ़र्क पड़ता है, मतलब क्या हो जाता है अचानक से? Now everything will come in a loop. Now everything will come in a loop. At the end आप लोग आओगे इधर ही. At the end all of you people will come over here. So when people get more money in their hands, now think about the concept of demand that we've studied in case of ESI. अब देखिए, all of you understand that I am taking lectures in such a manner that it is, building foundation step by step. We've understood demand and supply in ESI. Now we are studying inflation. इसी तरीके से we will be talking about different, topics that basically helps you build your overall foundation for RBI Grade B 2026. If you see, when people get more money in their hands, it leads to increased demand in the economy, because now people have the willingness, people also have the ability, because people get more money. So that's why there is an increased demand in the economy. And whenever there is an increased demand leads to what? Increased demand leads to inflation. So I hope you guys understand that how monetary policy sometimes also leads to inflation. So increased demand causes what? Increased demand causes inflation in the economy. Now any example in real life that you can think of which basically led to high inflation in the global economy. Global economy में inflation बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गया था. Do you guys remember any example? When did it happen? If you remember, during COVID-19, major advanced economies like USA, US, European Union, these economies decided to do what? They decided to print more money and provide this money to all the businesses, provide this money to all the people. And when you provide money to all these people, they will spend. And whenever the spending is higher, what will happen? It will lead to high inflation. So this is one thing. So this is what you call demand-led inflation. Okay? So this is what we call demand-led inflation. But apart from this, this also was accentuated. मतलब ये चीज़ और ज़्यादा खराब कैसे हो गई थी? This also got accentuated because of the Russia-Ukraine war. In Russia-Ukraine war, what happened was that there got supply chain disruptions. What do you mean by this? That means जो raw material आपका आना था from somewhere, it was not able to come. ठीक है? Because of the war, because of COVID, because of lockdown. So supply chain disruption also led to what? Supply chain disruption led to, limited or reduced supply in the market. And whenever there is limited supply, it leads to what? It leads to increased inflation. And that is why you see a lot more inflation happened in the global economy. You remember that or not? Do you guys remember this? How many of you people remembered this overall case scenario when basically COVID-19 led to more spending and more spending led to high inflation? किस को याद है? Yes. isn't it? So I hope all of you are able to understand whatever we discussed till now. Inflation causes, high demand, limited supply. How monetary policy and fiscal policy sometimes leads to inflation. And the example being Russia-Ukraine war and major advanced economies, basically COVID-19. No, it will not go to May. Good evening, Saurabh. It will not go to May. It will be completed by the April end. We have already given this in our schedule. In our schedule, we've already given this. So you can check it from there. Okay. So till here, does anybody have any issue? Please tell. किसी को कोई दिक्कत? चलिए. If there is no issue, now let's discuss about some key terms or key types of inflation. Okay, so one of the key types of inflation is what you call normal, or let's say walking inflation. Walking inflation or walking price rise, we try to, this classification is on the basis of growth rate in price. Let's say if the amount of good was available at 100 rupees, after 1 year it became 110. So the inflation rate is how much? Inflation rate is 10%. Okay? So on the basis of this, growth rate, we will be talking about types of inflation. So walking inflation is just the slow inflation. In slow inflation, the inflation rate is basically somewhere around 1% to 5%. This is what we call slow inflation. Then you have what you call galloping inflation. Galloping inflation. Galloping inflation is, first of all, it's more than double digit, or what you call, it's a double digit. Let me correct it. It's a double digit inflation rate. That means at least this you guys understand, that there is more inflation whenever galloping inflation is being talked about. That inflation sometimes can range up to 50%. Okay, 10 to 15% you can think. In that particular range, the inflation is so much. But then you also have hyperinflation. Hyperinflation. In hyperinflation, what happens is the inflation growth rate becomes so high that every day the currency is losing its value. Currency is losing its value. If you see the examples of it, if you remember, the Germany after World War I, basically Germany currency got smashed down. So people used to carry, a ton of currency. अभी जो जितने भी आप सोचते होगे जितने भी जो ब्यूरोक्रेट पकड़े जाते हैं ना, जो करप्ट ब्यूरोक्रेट्स पकड़े जाते हैं, उनके बिस्तर पे आप लोगों ने देखे होंगे ना, बड़े बड़े नोट बहुत सारे रखे रहते हैं. तो उतने नोट भर भर के जर्मनी के लोग ब्रेड खरीदने जाते थे. आप सोचिए, उतने नोट भर भर के लोग ब्रेड खरीदने जाते थे. ब्रेड वाज और कॉस्टली नहीं था. इट वॉज नॉट कि ब्रेड वॉज कॉस्टली, इट वॉज द करेंसी दैट दे वर यूटिलाइजिंग लॉस्ट इट्स वैल्यू कंप्लीटली because of the war. ठीक है, because nobody would accept that currency. So that's what the case scenario was. So hyperinflation usually happens in war-like situations, where the growth rate is 125%, 1000%, 10,000% inflation. Okay, so that's the whole case scenario. Correct, Ritik. Just like also it happens in Venezuela and same case in Gaza. Okay, and then the last two topics for today is what we're going to discuss, these two types of inflation also. ये दो इन्फ्लेशन और पढ़ते हैं, बाकी फिर सौरभ सर को आने देते हैं. सौरभ सर भी अब पीआईबी की क्लास लेंगे, करंट अफेयर्स पीआईबी की हम ही लेते रहेंगे तो सौरभ सर को क्लास के लेंगे. चलिए, so next is cost push inflation. So the cost push inflation is basically saying when the price increase is because of increase in cost of manufacturing or cost of production. Increase in cost of production. So for example, let's say you are producing car, Maruti Suzuki, again Maruti Suzuki example, Maruti Suzuki is producing car. Okay, so car AC units that it used to get it from Subros previously were available at 1 lakh rupees, but now it is available at 2 lakh rupees. So their overall cost of manufacturing a car has increased by 1 lakh rupees. So naturally, in order to make their product viable, make their product profitable, they obviously will be increasing their car price. They will be increasing their car price. अब कार प्राइस इंक्रीज करेंगे तो हुआ ना आपका इन्फ्लेशन. सो व्हेन द कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन इज लीडिंग टू प्राइस इंक्रीज, दिस इज व्हाट वी कॉल कॉस्ट पुश इन्फ्लेशन. गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? समझ आया आप लोग को? जब भी गाड़ी प्रोड्यूस कर, जब भी आपको कोई भी प्रोडक्शन करना है, जब भी सेलर्स लोग जो जितनी भी फैक्ट्रीज होती हैं, जितने भी लोग बिजनेसेस करते हैं, उनको जब कोई भी गुड्स को या फिर किसी भी सर्विसेज को आपको देने में खर्चा ज़्यादा लगता है, तो अपने बिजनेस को वाइबल बनाने के लिए वो लोग प्राइस बढ़ाएंगे कि नहीं बढ़ाएंगे? तो जब वो लोग प्राइस बढ़ाते हैं क्योंकि खर्चा बढ़ गया है, तो इसी को हम कहते हैं कॉस्ट पुश इन्फ्लेशन. इज दिस क्लियर टू ईच एंड एवरी वन ऑफ यू? ये समझ आ गया सबको? प्राइम एग्जाम्पल तो मारुति सुजुकी, आई फील कार मैन्युफैक्चरिंग आप लोग को समझ आई जाती होगी. मतलब मेरे को बता देना है इन केस इफ यू फाइंड द कार मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एग्जाम्पल्स वायबल और नॉट. आई होप यू गाइज एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस और नॉट. बताइए. ठीक है. और फिर लास्ट हमारा जो आज का टर्म है विच इज डिसइंफ्लेशन. सो देयर आर टू टर्म्स, एक होता है डिसइंफ्लेशन, एक होता है डीफ्लेशन. ठीक है. नाउ आई विल टेल यू, जब आप एग्जांपल लेने वाले ये तो अच्छा यू नो व्हाट इज कमिंग. ठीक है. चलो, आई वाज सेइंग there are two terms in the inflation chapter which is disinflation and deflation. I will showcase to you two data. मैं आपको दो डेटा दिखाऊंगा, आप उन डेटा के बेसिस पे you tell me what is disinflation and what is deflation. So we are talking about the price of, let's say, Amul butter. Amul butter is basically, let's say, in 2024 was available at, let's say, 100 rupees. In 2025 available at 150 rupees. in 2026 it's available at you can say 180 rupees. Over here, another data, Amul butter available at 100 rupees, Amul butter available at 90 rupees, Amul butter available at 80 rupees. So can you tell me, is the A set of data or is the B set of data? What is what and what is what? If you see in A, what is happening? You see price is increasing from over 100 to 150 and even 150 to 180, the price is increasing in both the cases. But if you see the growth rate over here is 50%. But the growth rate over here is what? यहाँ पर growth rate कितना है? 20%. So you see there is a decline in growth rate of inflation. This is what we call disinflation. Disinflation is defined as the decline in the growth rate of inflation. मतलब inflation बढ़ेगा, लेकिन if you see inflation will increase, but it will increase like this. Just like our YouTube video. Our YouTube video starts like this, but then it goes like this. Because you see later on. But the good thing is it keeps on increasing, even with a small growth rate. Okay? But the deflation concept is decline in prices. Deflation is basically the opposite of inflation. Deflation leads to decline in prices. Okay? Where the price, as you can see, declines over here from 100 to 90 and the 90 to 180. So the growth rate over here is minus 10%. Okay? So in terms of growth rate, if you see, whenever you see negative growth rate, you see deflation. But whenever you see slowing growth rate, you call disinflation. Is this clear to each and every one of you? किसी को कोई दिक्कत, please पूछ लो. If you have any question, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll wind up this session. Yes. Please, anyone, if they have any questions, feel free to ask. I hope you like the session. And if you like the session, again, okay, if you are not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Even I am very, chalo, later on, I'll tell you about this. Okay? Chalo, thank you guys for joining.